Hello guys, this is Arvind here from Edureka and I welcome you all to this session on Docker architecture. So before we move any further, let us have a quick look at the agenda for today's session. We will start this session by comparing the traditional virtualization versus Docker. Then we will talk about the Docker workflow, where we will see how the Docker system actually works. Then we will talk about the Docker architecture and its core components such as the Docker client, the Docker host, the Docker objects. We are going to cover the images, containers, networking and storage. And finally, we will conclude with Docker registry. I hope I'm clear with the agenda, guys. Just a reminder, in case you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do subscribe and also click on the bell icon so that you never miss an update from Edureka. So without wasting any further time, let us begin with our first topic, traditional versus Docker. So earlier, we used to create virtual machines and each virtual machine had an OS which took a lot of space and made it heavy. So now we will see what exactly is a virtual machine. So the concept of virtual machine is very simple. It's a virtual server that emulates a hardware server. A virtual machine relies on the system's physical hardware to emulate the exact same environment on which you install your applications. So depending upon your use case, you can use a system virtual machine that runs an entire OS as a process, allowing you to substitute a real machine for a virtual machine, or process virtual machines that lets you execute your computer applications alone in the virtual environment. So this was about the virtual machine. Now let us talk about Docker. So Docker is an open source project that offers software development solution known as containers. So to understand containers, you need to know what containers are. According to Docker, a container is a lightweight, standalone executable package of a piece of software that includes everything needed to run it. And since containers are platform independent, Docker can run across both the Windows as well as Linux-based platforms. In fact, Docker can also be run within a virtual machine if needed. So the main purpose of Docker is that it lets you run a microservice applications in a distributed architecture. So if you talk about the real world use case for Docker, PayPal uses Docker to drive cost efficiency and enterprise grade security for its infrastructure. PayPal runs VMs and containers side by side and says that containers reduce the number of VMs it needs to run. The second use case is about General Electric. So General Electric initial application development practices were entirely manual and took on an average 6 weeks to go from development to production on account of several mistakes, reworks, and reviews of the application. There was no repeatability due to manual intervention. So this issue was resolved by adopting Docker, which in several ways is much easier to use and highly portable, which gave the ability to build once and run in any environment. So now we will compare virtual machine with the Dockers. So when compared to virtual machines, the Docker platform moves up the abstraction of resources from the hardware level to the operating system level. So this allows for the realization of the various benefits of containers. For example, application portability, infrastructure separation, and self-contained microservices. So in other words, while virtual machines abstract the entire hardware server, containers abstract the OS kernel. This is a whole different approach to virtualization and results in much faster and more lightweight instances. So now let us take a look at the Docker engine and its components so we have a basic idea of how the system works. So Docker engine allows you to develop, assemble, ship, and run applications using the following components. The first component is the Docker daemon. So this is a persistent background process that manages the Docker images, containers, networks, and storage volumes. The Docker daemon constantly listens for Docker API requests and processes them. The second component is the Docker Engine REST API. So this is nothing but an API used by applications to interact with Docker daemon. It can be accessed by using an HTTP client. And the third component is the Docker CLI. This is nothing but a command line interface client for interacting with Docker daemon. It greatly simplifies how you manage container instances and is one of the key reasons why developers love using Docker. So what happens in Docker is, at very first, the Docker client talks to the Docker daemon, which performs the heavy lifting of the building, running, as well as distributing of our Docker containers. Basically, both the Docker client and the daemon can run on the same system, or we can connect a Docker client to a remote Docker daemon. In addition, by using a REST API, the Docker client and daemon communicates over Unix sockets or a network interface. So this is how the Docker system works. Now let us talk about the Docker architecture. So if you talk about the Docker architecture, as you can see on this slide, this is what Docker architecture looks like, and it has three major components, namely the client, the Docker host, and the registry. So now let us talk about each of these components one by one. So the first component is the Docker client. So Docker users can interact with Docker through a client. When any Docker command runs, the client sends them to the Dockerd daemon, which carries them out. Docker API is used by Docker commands, and Docker client can communicate with more than one daemon. The second component is the Docker host. So the Docker host provides a complete environment to execute and run applications. It comprises of the Docker daemons, images, containers, networks, and storage. So as previously mentioned, the daemon is responsible for all container related actions and receives the commands via the command line interface or the REST API. It can also communicate with other daemons to manage its services. The Docker daemon pulls and builds container images as requested by the client. Once it pulls a requested image, it builds a working model for the container by utilizing a set of instructions known as the build file. The build file can also include instructions for the daemon to preload other components prior to running the container, or instructions to be sent to the local command line once the container is built. Now we will talk about the Docker objects. So as you can see on this slide, these are the various Docker objects, starting with images, containers, networking, and storage. Images are a read-only binary template used to build containers. Images also contain metadata that describe the container's capabilities and the needs. Images are used to store and ship applications. An image can be used on its own to build a container or customized to add additional elements to extend the current configuration. So container images can be shared across teams with an enterprise using a private container registry, or shared with the world using a public registry like the Docker Hub. So these images are a core part of the Docker experience, as they enable collaboration between the developers in a way that was not possible before. The second object is the containers. So containers are encapsulated environments in which you run the applications. The container is defined by the image and any additional configuration options provided on starting the container, including and not limited to the network connections and the storage options. Containers only have access to resources that are defined in the image, unless additional access is defined when building the image into a container. You can also create a new image based on the current state of the container. Since containers are much smaller than the VMs, they can be spun up in a matter of seconds and results in much better server density. So the third object that we are going to talk about is the networks, or the networking part. So Docker networking is a passage through which all the isolated containers communicate. So the following are the few types of network drivers in a Docker. The first one is the bridge. It is the default network driver for a container. You use this network when your application is running on standalone containers, that is, multiple containers communicating with the same Docker host. The second one is the overlay. So this network enables Swarm services to communicate with each other. It is used when the containers are running on different Docker hosts, or when Swarm services are formed by multiple applications. The third one is the MAC VLAN. This driver assigns MAC addresses to containers to make them look like physical devices. The traffic is routed between containers through their MAC addresses. This network is used when you want the containers to look like the physical device. For example, while migrating a VM setup. There are two more network drivers known as the host and the none. So the none driver disables all the networking, and the host driver removes the network isolation between the Docker containers and the Docker host. So it is used when you don't need any network isolation between the host and the container. And the fourth Docker object is the storage. You can store data within the writable layer of a container, but it requires a storage driver. Being non-persistent, it perishes whenever the container is not running. Moreover, it is not easy to transfer this data. So in terms of persistent storage, Docker offers four options. The first one is the data volume. Data volumes provide the ability to create persistent storage with the ability to rename volumes, list volumes, and also list the container that is associated with the volume. Data volumes sit on the host file system outside the container's copy on write mechanism and are fairly efficient. The second option is the data volume container. A data volume container is an alternative approach wherein a dedicated container hosts a volume and to mount that volume to other containers. In this case, the volume container is independent of the application container and therefore can be shared across more than one container. Another option is to mount a host's local directory into the container. In previously mentioned cases, the volumes would have to be within the Docker volumes folder, whereas when it comes to directory mounts, any directory on the host machine can be used as a source for the volume. And the final option is the storage plugins. So storage plugins provide the ability to connect to external storage platforms. These plugins map storage from the host to an external source like the storage array or an appliance. So a list of storage plugins can be found on the Docker's plugin page. And the last component that we are going to talk about is the Docker registries. So Docker registries are services that provide locations from where you can store and download images. In other words, a Docker registry contains Docker repositories that host one or more Docker images. Public registries include Docker Hub and the Docker Cloud, and private registries can also be used. So a few common commands when working with registries are Docker push, Docker pull, and Docker run. So this was all about the Docker architecture from my side. If you have any queries related to this presentation, you can post them in the comment box below and we will try to get back to you as early as possible. I hope you have enjoyed this session. Thank you for being with us and happy learning.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!